Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our slash entitled people. In today's episode, entitled D3 college athlete thinks that student athletes should get to register for classes before anyone else, gets mad when others don't agree. Working hours. My teacher made me drink milk, so I vomited on her expensive shoes. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled D3 college athlete thinks that student athletes should get to register for classes before anyone else, gets mad when others don't agree. So a couple of us were sitting around a table in a mutual friend's apart, mix of recent alum and current students, and one person, who is a cousin of the friend whose apartment we were in, whose family is pretty wealthy, mentions how hard it is to schedule classes around practices and games. She, a sophomore D3 athlete at a small school, decided to declare, completely seriously, that college athletes should get priority over everyone else, including seniors, as we have actual things to do, as sports are actually worth something. She got mad at us for not agreeing with her narcissism due to three of us had to juggle jobs to pay for school along with full class loads, along with various leadership positions. The one who didn't also, her cousin, our apartment friend, played a different sport while double majoring in order to get into law school. Additionally, knowing that she had also previously complained earlier in the night how professors should be more understanding of the need to party and not assign such ridiculous workloads. Upon not getting the response she wanted, declared that we all just hated athletes and was mad at us the rest of the night. Our friend did apologize to us later, but we all didn't blame her at all. It was the fault of her cousin. We just ignored her because, like, what? I recall a few classes where a varsity scholarship athlete was enrolled, even thought the class was full, and they did not have the prereqs. It really didn't matter since they rarely came to class. I remember one professor who called out the starting guard on the basketball team and told him he shouldn't waste his time trying to understand a 400-level comp sci class. Word had come down that he would get a passing grade. He should spend his time in the gym working on his free throws. He took the advice, and that was the year they went to the NCAA Final Four. Wait until this entitled brat gets into the real world when she can no longer play sports. Especially D3, you made it by the skin of your teeth. Congratulations, you will excel in the annual company softball tournament. Where I used to teach, D2 mostly, with basketball being D1, athletes and seniors got priority registration because their options were constrained, whether by scheduling conflicts or by remaining requirements. That was normal and reasonable. Athletes over everyone else? No. At my school, veterans, athletes, student workers, and employees are allowed to register before everyone else. It's quite common. Working hours. I'm in a unionized job, and my team leader is in constant confrontation with my boss. My team leader is the kind of person that everyone in the company wonders what he does all day. He's very good at always managing to do as little as possible. Since the holidays, my team leader has taken great pleasure in calculating the hours worked by the technicians on the team. It's a bit ridiculous considering he doesn't seem to do the hours himself. So now my team leader is pressuring me to go and tell my boss that some of the technicians aren't doing their hours. Let your boss know that you haven't seen the team lead completing their work, that the technicians have been productive, and your team lead sent you to your boss to tell them that the technicians weren't doing their hours. If they've been accomplishing their tasks, make sure to point that out. Play the annoyed messenger with a ridiculous message so the boss knows not to take the team leader seriously. And if the team leader is causing problems and not working, reach out to the union. A good union will have a talk with the team leader about work requirements in the union. Nobody likes a snitch. Sounds like you need to have a sit-down with your union rep in HR. It isn't your job to monitor and report on other techs, and being pressured to do so by your lead isn't right. Nope, not your job. You are not the team lead. You are not the designated snitch. You are not the troublemaker. Do your job well and completely and deny all knowledge of anybody else. Sounds like the team leader is a bigger problem/threat than the management is. This sounds like some kind of setup to get you in trouble with the union, fellow workers, or maybe even the managers. You don't ever snitch on another union brother or sister to management ever. You didn't see or know anything if ever asked. My teacher made me drink milk, so I vomited on her expensive shoes. By the title, I know what you are possibly thinking. Vanguarditan 5335 must have been an entitled kid. Allow me to explain. For a bit of background, at that time I was a special education student, autism and ADHD, so I was a perfect target for bullies, both student bullies and teacher bullies. This story took place in 2008 to 2009. I was 9 years old at that time. With lactose intolerance, my student record even stated I could eat or drink it, otherwise I get sick. Anyways, on to the story. It was a fall day at lunch, and I just finished lunch and was about to throw my tray when I was stopped by my teacher. The conversation went as follows. Teacher, what do you think you're doing? Vanguarditan 5335. Me, just throwing away my tray. Teacher, you're not finished. You haven't finished your milk. My school had this stupid rule where you had to finish all your food on your tray, including your milk. I was exempt from the milk rule because of my lactose intolerance. Me, I can't drink it, I'll get sick. Teacher, Vanguarditan 5335, either you finish your milk or you won't go to recess. Mind you, for a 9-year-old with ADHD, no recess was like a death penalty rather than not having recess for the day. I complied just to prove to her I would get sick. Me, okay, Mrs. Teacher, I will drink my milk. I pleased her for drinking it, and I was allowed to go to recess, knowing very well in 15 minutes I would get sick. And 15 minutes later on the dot, I did in fact get sick. So I went to ask my teacher if I could go to the nurses. Me, Mrs. Teacher, can I please go to the nurse? Teacher, you can wait till we get back to class. Mind you, my school recess would last another 25 minutes. Me, I really don't feel well. To be honest, 9-year-old me wasn't expecting to vomit all over her, but it happened. I proceeded to bend forward and projectile vomit all over my teacher's very expensive shoes. Mind you, she wasn't wearing any socks or stockings. If she took off the shoes, she would be barefooted. So she got vomit not only on her shoes but her feet. Those shoes were very expensive from what I could tell, and TBH, they were pretty. She just stood there as if I committed a hate crime against her or something before she could yell at me. My neighbor, who was a teacher who worked at the school, ran to my aid. Neighbor teacher, Vanguarditan 5335, are you okay? Do you want to go to the nurse? I nodded my head. My neighbor took me to the nurse and personally called my mom to pick me up. When my mom got to my school, my neighbor teacher told my mom what happened. Neighbor teacher, Vanguarditan 5335, told me that Mrs. Teacher made her drink milk, otherwise she wouldn't get recess. Let's just say my mom was pissed and tore my principal a new one. When I first started school in kindergarten, she made sure my school couldn't take away my recess time because of that or stupid reasons unless I broke a rule. I got my revenge, but my teacher wasn't pleased that I vomited on her and got her in trouble with the principal. The next day when I came back to school, my teacher made me go to my special education teacher's classroom because she wanted to talk to me. So being the good kid that I was, I complied. The conversation went as follows. Me. Hi, special ed teacher. Special ed teacher. Vanguarditon 5335. I heard what happened yesterday. Me. Yeah, I got sick because. Special ed teacher. Mrs. Teacher told me you vomited on her shoes on purpose. She and Mrs. Teacher are good friends. And Mrs. Teacher painted herself as the victim. While that accusation was sort of true, I didn't expect to vomit. Me. I didn't. She made. Special ed teacher. Vanguarditon 5335. You are going to write Mrs. Teacher an apology letter, and if you refuse, I will take you to the principal's office. Honestly, I should have taken the trip to the principal's office. For the next hour, I wrote the apology letter even though I didn't want to. After all, Mrs. Teacher ordered me to drink the milk even though she knew I had lactose intolerance. After I wrote it, and my special education teacher was pleased with it, I was allowed to go to class. While walking back, I ripped the letter to shreds and disposed of it. When I got back to class, I told Mrs. Teacher we just talked about it, and special ed teacher hopes I get better. Special ed teacher thankfully liked and trusted me enough to where she didn't need to ask if I gave her the letter. After 6th grade, the bullying I faced ended up getting worse to the point I was thinking suicide was the best option to escape the bullying. Luckily, my mom moved me schools, and I ended up going to a much better one that cared about me. At my new school, I succeeded academically, and so moved I decided at age 15 to become a special education teacher. At age 17, I was accepted into that school's teaching program, and because I did so well, the superintendent and vice superintendent offered me a job offer that same year. Of course, I need to graduate college and pass my certification exam. I'm now 21 years old and in college, still studying special education, which is my deepest passion. Also, I am in consoling now, and turns out the treatment I endured in my pre-K to 7th grade school was child abuse. From all the bullying and mistreatment, and it was so bad it turned out I developed PTSD because of it. Don't worry folks, I do plan on telling my consoler this story on Tuesday, so I'll tell you guys what my consoler says. I'm really sorry. What that school did was incredibly horrific. When I was in 5th grade, I got hit in the face with a basketball, right on the nose. I had asked my teacher to go to the nurse, and she wouldn't let me. I was crying too. Days later, word had got to the principal, and my teacher was in trouble. She'd lied about the incident. In her version, I'd gotten hit, but when she asked if I wanted to go to the nurse, I'd supposedly said no, when in reality, I had been begging to go to the nurse. When I heard this from my mother days after, I flat out told her it was a lie. I'm kind of surprised anyone believed me. My mother was pissed at her, and the teacher never looked at me the same again. Of course, she didn't look at you the same again. She opened the school up for a massive lawsuit by your mother. Should you need more than tissue for a bleeding nose? That teacher got some instant karma. When I was in kindergarten, my class went on a field trip and our lunches, provided by the school, were kept in the back of the bus. No refrigeration, mind you. And the lunches included milk. I got my lunch, opened my little milk carton, and it smelled bad. So bad I still remember it all these years later. I didn't want to drink. The teacher's aide who was there said I had to drink it, or they wouldn't let me on the bus to go back to school. We were at a farm for the field trip, and there were no phones. This was back in '88, so there were no cell phones either. I ended up drinking the milk. Of course, I got sick. Still can't drink milk, by the way. Man, that school was hell. I'm glad you got out of yours and are in a better place. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.